Hey guys, what's up? I got everybody here from TMI. Don't forget to write us an email at tmipodcast2018. That's tmipodcast2018 at gmail.com. Let us know how we're doing. Also, check us out on Twitter.
Follow us on Twitter at TMI_podcast 2018. Just use the numbers, don't spell it out.
Ooh, don't forget Facebook.com/TMI Podcast 2018.
Follow us on the Apple Podcast app. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review.
All you YouTubers out there, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, TMI Podcast 2018. Look for the popcorn bucket.
That's right. Also, check us out on Spotify and the Google Play Music app for all you Android users. Follow us and subscribe everywhere. We appreciate it. We're doing it for you guys, the fans. Thank you.
The moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Dave Odinson Warhowski, Jeff Nerfherder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Mike Mjolnir Evans. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
What was that?
What? I thought that was you.
It wasn't me.
What?
Whose idea was it to camp out for this episode?
I don't know. I wish I brought an extra blanket, though. It's a little chilly.
I know everything for the pod, but this is taking it a little bit too far.
You know, you said we're going to go remote this week. I thought that we were just going to go remote.
I think this was Mike's idea. This was Mike's idea, and he's not even here.
I'm pretty sure that Mike came up with this. And he's probably nice and warm in some pub over in Ireland.
In Ireland, he's awaiting his U2 concert at the end of his trip.
Yeah.
Can you give me another piece of firewood, please?
Yeah, sure. Let's fill this up, man. My hands are a little. Woof.
Okay. I hope that thing doesn't get any closer. But we might see Sasquatch. This might be your dream trip.
I'm all for it. Let's go. Let's go squatching right now.
For the greater good of this podcast, we are outdoors, coming to you from the Alaskan wilderness. We're getting into character for our feature film this week, which is Hold the Dark, a Netflix exclusive. So we figured we needed a little bit of inspiration in order to...
Can we go inside when we talk American Werewolf, though?
Yeah, we could. Yeah, definitely.
Please. I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah, we've got the cabin right next door here, so we can, we can go into the cabin.
Nice. You got the keys, right?
Yeah, I got the keys.
Okay, all right.
So I got some news, a little bit of news before we get into it. In doing research for Hold the Dark, we've got Alexander Skarsgård, who plays Vernon Sloan in our main feature today. He was just confirmed as joining the cast of Kong vs. Godzilla. The 2020 release of Kong vs. Godzilla. Because as we know, are they calling it the Monsterverse? Legendary Films?
Yeah, I hope so. I think they've done a fair job of kind of building this up.
So we're getting a sequel to the 2014 Godzilla in 2019, and then the following year we are going to get Kong Godzilla Brawl. So
wow. Are you foreseeing like a monster movie a year kind of a thing?
Maybe, and I hope so, because apparently they have the rights to all the Toho characters. They got the rights to Kong, man. So maybe they can do it, and I would love to see it myself.
Well, this Godzilla King of All Monsters looks like they're not holding anything back. They are really going out with all these creatures, so...
And I am too, especially after seeing the 2014 Godzilla. That has a few detractors, mostly because there's not enough Godzilla. But I thought it was a slow burn, and I thought it was a very nice take on something that's not taken very seriously that much anymore. The director, Gareth Edwards, took a very Jawsian kind of approach to it.
Yeah.
Where he kind of held back until the end. And, I was invested in it. I like the characters. I like the actors. And by the end of it, I think it was enough of a build-up that it was very pleasing to me as a Godzilla fan.
I agree. I did like it.
So I don't think Gareth is back for the sequel, from what I understand. I don't think he's directing the sequel, but it does look promising in its own right.
Yeah, and listen, Kong Skull Island was pretty ballsy. They kind of laid it all out there. So, if they can merge those two worlds together, I'm excited. I'm in. Channeling my inner 10-year-old right now.
Yeah. So that's all the news I got. I just saw that little piece before.
Yeah, and I got nothing, so. Slow week today.
So, yeah. Well, let's get into it then. Hold the Dark.
Yes. Will you hold my hand while we do this?
Yeah, we are in the dark here. Luckily, we have the fire going.
Ambiance.
Yeah. So this is a Netflix movie based on a novel that's a few years old now, but the basic setup of the plot is that we have a little itsy bitsy town in the wilderness of Alaska called Kilu. I think not too far from here, where we are.
We're right around the corner. Great.
Yeah, not the most welcoming of populations in Kilu, but we've got a character of what is her name? Medora Sloan.
She sounds like a drink. I could take right
yeah.
Now. Medora Sloan. I'll take a Medora Sloan over easy.
That would be nice and warm right now, I'm sure. Okay, so her son, 6 years old, from what we're led to believe, is taken by wolves at the beginning of this movie. The kid is playing outside. He looks up. He sees a wolf in the distance. It's flashing forward, and Medora, the mother, who is by herself in this cabin because her husband, Vernon, is off in Iraq.
Skarsgård.
Played by Alexander Skarsgård, who is, as we know now, is going to be in King Kong vs. Godzilla 2020. So Medora Sloan, she contacts a character played by Jeffrey Wright. His name is Russell Core, and he is the Wolf Man.
Oh,
he is a wolf expert.
Wolfman.
Yeah. Apparently, he has written some books, and she is aware of him because of this. And the town has experienced a wolf epidemic in recent years because a few of the children have been taken by wolves.
Right. His book was written right. He actually lived among them.
Yes, he did. So
he
it was like Gorillas in the Mist.
Wolves in the Mist.
So due to her son being taken, she contacts Russell Core, being the wolf expert, to come and hunt these wolves to give her peace of mind. And she writes him an impassioned letter, and he falls for it.
Yeah, he's basically got nothing better to do, so he jumps on a plane and flies all the way up to Alaska.
And there's a backstory with him. He's got issues with his daughter, and then he's by himself apparently. So
and she's in Alaska somewhere, so he figures he can reconnect with her while he's chasing down wolves.
Right? Yeah, she's at a university in Anchorage.
Yeah, right.
Which Medora says is not Alaska. So no offense to any of our
Last I checked, it was.
Yeah, please, no offense to any of our Anchorage listeners out there.
Yes, exactly.
So Russell shows up, and things just get weird from that point on.
Like 10 minutes in, I'm pretty sure that I actually sent Jim a text 10 minutes in.
What the hell is that? Yeah.
What the F am I watching here? Because it gets weird really.
It does. He's staying at her cabin, at Medora's cabin, as the Wolfman has nowhere else to go. And she, lays it out on the line, what's happened in the town. She wants him to go out and kill the wolves. Will he be able to kill the wolves because he has lived with them? And he says yes, that he will, that not to worry. So he sleeps on her couch, and weird thing number one, he spies her. She's got the door open. She's taking a bath, and she's rubbing the heck out of her back with a loofah. I didn't know that you could actually.
Actually, is torn open, like she's just going to town.
Yeah. So I don't think it was a loofah. I think you would have to scrub for about 10 years in order to get some kind of laceration from a loofah.
I think she just had really bad eczema.
That could be. So regardless, you know where this is going. Open bath. He's spying her. She suddenly appears naked in front of him with a wolf mask on.
Right. Listen, how many times, I can't even tell you how many times that's happened to me.
She snuggles up next to him, places his hand on her throat as if she wants him to choke her.
Right.
And then so he rips her hand away. Then you flash forward to the next morning. So you don't know what's happened, really. Has there been a sexual interlude there? You don't know.
My takeaway was that no. But yeah, that was like weird thing number one.
So then we get into the next day where Russell actually packs up and he goes into the wilderness to hunt the wolves. He happens upon a hot springs cave, which Medora has told him about the previous night. So he takes note of that, but he continues on, and he finds the wolves, he sees the wolves in the process of ripping apart one of their young.
Devouring it, yeah. That was.
So you weren't sure what you were looking at that point, what they were eating, but he explains it a little bit later on. So he's got one of the head wolf in his sights, and he can't do it. He cannot pull the trigger.
But then he falls. He ended up tripping, falling, and all the wolves come running in, but then they leave him. They don't attack him.
It made me think of that Daffy Duck Looney Tunes episode where he plays Robin Hood, where he goes trip all the way down the hill.
Yeah, he just kept going. And she was smart enough to put what was like saran wrap or duct tape over the end of the gun. I guess so it doesn't get impacted with snow.
Oh, you see, I did not know what the hell that was about.
That was my take.
Get that tape off
maybe she's like, at some point you're probably going to trip and fall. So let me just put duct tape over the end of your gun because you don't look that stable. Listen, I grew up in the woods. We hunted, deer and whatnot, and I'd have never seen anybody like duct tape. So now the wolves are closing. I mean, they're barreling in on him, and he's frantically trying to take the tape off. Don't you think the bullet would just go right through the tape?
Yeah, I would think
right,
so.
If you were going to shoot at something, I don't think I'd be too concerned. Anyways, yeah. So that was weird number 2.
So the wolves don't attack him, and he does not shoot the wolf. So defeated, he makes his way back to Kilut, to Medora's cabin. And once he does, Medora is gone. He goes inside, he's looking around, and he finds the dead body of Bailey in the basement, who has been strangled.
But this was after he encountered the old lady shaman who gave him warning that Meduna, whatever her name was some kind of a demon.
Yes, a Turnok, as she called it, a wolf demon, yes, who has darkness.
Yes, and in between there, we also had flashbacks, or we had flash sideways. We saw the husband in Afghanistan because weird number 3 happens, where he's in the war, and he basically they're in a shootout. He gets shot, but not before he catches one of his fellow army guys raping a woman, and he kills him. And then there's another flashback to him talking to his son, talking about killing. Let's talk about that, because I had a really hard time understanding the dialogue in this. I felt like there was a lot of mumbling going on. And there was definitely. There were some weird points where I'm like, what did he say? Like, I don't know. I thought it was me. I have tinnitus, and so sometimes I have to watch my TV really loud, and I didn't understand.
You see, I'm absolute opposite, because just in fear of waking up my son,
you have it down low.
Then I'd never hear the end of it if he's awake in the middle of the night from him. Have it down.
He's like, Daddy, what's that man doing to that girl with the wolf mask on?
What are you watching? What are you watching down there?
You would have been educated really quickly.
So we have the sound turned down with the subtitles. So
that's actually smart, because there was some like I said, there was some dialogue I didn't catch.
So especially that comes in very handy in a movie like this. Reading the subtitles. Vernon and his son Bailey fishing out in the Alaskan wilderness, and Bailey's asking his father if it's okay to kill a man, and Vernon in his manly way, well, sometimes if it has to be done, it's right. And then they're talking about darkness a little bit in the movie as well. So you get a feeling that just from that scene that Vernon is kind of passing his darkness down to Bailey. In that little fishing scene, you very much get that feel. And you kind of understand where Medora is coming from, what her motivations might be a little bit early on before they spell it out for you, which they do and they don't. This is a very bizarre.
Hold on, because I was gonna say, wait, they do spell it out? Because
Russell,
you're doing a damn good job right now of
Russell Core tries to.
You're actually making this sound much more interesting than it really is. Just listen to Jim and don't watch the movie.
Yeah. So Russell Core finds the body of the child. Jeffrey Wright and his style of acting is extremely laid back. The most emoting he does is takes off his glasses and puts them back on again.
Which he does as Bernard in Westworld.
In Westworld, yes.
Also, that's all he does is take the glasses off. He cleans them. He puts them back on.
I don't know what he would do without the glasses.
No,
he uses
that's
them
a
as such a crutch.
Yeah.
Well, then again, he does play Felix Leiter in the James Bond movies, and I think he's without glasses. So I think he manages when he doesn't have them. But
does he take out his contacts, clean them, put them back in?
But the thing is, with this character, Russell Core, he's just running out into the dirt road of Kilut, pointing back towards, hey, help.
Yeah, right.
Help.
and it's got to be like 40 below up there, and not a single person can keep their door closed. Every time you turn around, the door's open, and I'm just like, are you heating me outdoors?
Yeah.
My mom just like comes back into my head. Close that door! You're heating me outside.
I know. You would think that it would be like the vacuum of space if you open the door in Alaska.
Right. No, they hang out, drinking coffee in their robes, standing there.
Just waiting for a stranger.
It doesn't even really qualify as a town. It's like 5 or 6 little shanties.
Yeah, and that's it.
Yeah.
And one of the cops. So the next scene is the police come to the cabin. They find the body, and one of the cops befriends Russell, and he's not really under suspicion at all, which was weird to me.
Right. The mom goes missing. All of a sudden, the kid shows up. This guy is like a stranger out of nowhere, and they're like, "All right, well, I'm gonna take you to a hotel, and then you're gonna stick around because I may have more questions." Okay.
You need to talk to those villagers. Oh, we did. Medora Sloan is possessed by a wolf demon. It is called a Turna. She slips her own skin, her blood is cursed, and it keeps going. That's what you get when you talk to the villagers.
And in the meantime, Vernon Sloan comes back to Kilu. And
yes, because he was injured, and so they sent him home.
He was injured in Iraq. They send him home. He finds out about his son. He goes to see him in the morgue.
Which was probably the most moving scene in the whole.
Yes. But then Vernon immediately kills all the police officers that are left behind. He kills the morgue assistant and takes the body.
And he has a buddy who's been waiting there.
Cheon, who is an Alaskan native, who's been waiting for him, who's a resident of Kilu, who helps him kill the police and helps him take the body. They mark it, they put him in a coffin, and they bury him.
But you're right, they mark it with something like to me that was almost like some kind of a ritual to protect him from...
Yeah, they mark the coffin with blood.
Right, for some reason.
They have a little conversation amongst themselves, Cheon and Vernon. Cheon says that he will buy Vernon time while he looks for his wife, because Vernon is extremely upset, and he is now going to hunt Medora, who has gone missing. And he has a feeling he knows where she's gone. So that leads us to the centerpiece of this movie, which is just probably a 10-minute massacre scene of Cheon.
It seemed to go on for 45 minutes.
It did. So Cheon sets up an automatic rifle in his, a machine gun, kind of similar to Old Painless from Predator.
Yeah, I don't know where he got this from.
Yeah, it's like the gun that you hang on the side of a helicopter, just like Old Painless.
Yeah, basically, yeah. But he mounts it on the hay bale section of his upper roof of his barn, I guess, house.
Yeah, so once the police find out that Vernon and Cheon have killed the 2 officers outside the morgue, they come, about 3 or 4 police cars come to Cheon's shack. They're all parked outside. The door opens up above. He opens fire on the police and just massacres them all. Except, of course, for our 2 main characters,
right,
Wolfman and the sheriff. But it's funny because, again, you get Jeffrey Wright. He's the only one that sees the door opening in the upstairs of the cabin, and Cheon there with a machine gun. And again, what does he say? Excuse me.
But just leading into that is when he goes, like, he has some epiphany in the hotel about the old lady who has given him warnings. So he goes back to her and he finds out that she is now dead. Someone has slit her throat. I guess we find out it was Vernon. And so, right, so now he's running over to this giant posse that's surrounding this house, and as Jim said, he's just like, and he's just kind of like pointing, and meanwhile, this guy just opens the door and opens fire on him, and he's like, but there's a dead person over there. There's a dead person over there. Like,
doesn't matter anymore. Soon we have about 5 or 6 other dead people littering the streets.
Yeah. So
then we have our main sheriff, who sneaks in the back door, cuts some booby traps that Cheon was left behind, and finally kills Cheon.
He's got the guy's back to him. He's got the gun, and he's still gunning down his fellow man. And you're like, shoot him. Oh, he waits for the guy to stop, turn around, sit down, pick up a gun, and engage in a conversation with him. And then, for all intents and purposes, he was going to shoot the guy. And at the last possible second, the cop shoots him, and he flies out the window.
Well, we needed some more exposition to confuse things a little bit more, right?
It would be nice if the exposition actually explained something.
Yeah, it would be nice. It would be.
This.
So then we're barreling towards the end of this movie. Being much shorter than it is. This movie is 2 hours plus. It's over 2 hours.
And it looks nice. I mean, there's some really nice visuals going on
absolutely,
here.
yeah.
But that's about it.
We cut over to Vernon. So he's on Medora's tail. Now, this is the thing. We know that she's going to the hot springs. They've really set that up in the beginning of the movie, that the hot springs are an important place for both her and Vernon.
Right.
But he doesn't go right there. He goes to this other town.
I guess
Like
other little tavern, hotel, motel. And the old lady immediately offers him sex.
Yes, yes.
They don't got women up in Gila. Gotta crawl all the way up here for a piece. I got a room till that. I'd make sure it was warm.
Well, I also charge. And he's like, yeah.
And then, 20 minutes later, she's shooting at him as he's driving away.
Well, he now kills. He meets another old man. There's a thing with a mask. Oh, you see, so he finds out that she was there, and she engaged in conversation with this old man, and she leaves her wolf mask behind. So at this point, it's like a by the numbers. Here he is. All right, he's gonna go over there. He's gonna grab a mask. Oh, he's gonna put it on, and now he's gonna shoot this guy.
Now you may think what Jeff just said was very random. She leaves her wolf mask behind. It is just that random in the movie. You've got no explanation of the wolf mask. She just has one.
No, I mean, I think they were trying to tie these two characters into the whole story of the wolves killing their young, because they both at one point pick up these masks and become these wolf personas. When he's looking for his wife and he says, "Can I see her room?" He goes into the room, and what does he do? He smells the sheets. So he's got like these wolf-like, and the one thing which is weird, which is they were both, and the old lady shaman even makes a mention of this, that they were not from here, or they were both like blonde hair, blue-eyed. They were like Nordic compared to everyone else who lived in the area. They didn't really fit in. And at one point, Cora is asking her questions early on about, have you always lived here? How long have you known your husband? And she goes, I don't know a time I didn't know my husband. He's always been here. I've always been here, kind of a thing. So
I thought, were they related?
Well, we can get into that because I did a little bit of research. But again, if I have to do research on a movie after I watch it to explain, no, it's not working. Yeah, these high concept movies, this was just.
So let's talk about the old man that he kills here. So he goes into the inn. The proprietor offers to sleep with him, and she's pushing 60.
Yeah, she's got to be. She was up there. She had some age on her.
So she says to go see the Indian tracker, or Indian hunter, but who's not actually an Indian.
Right, or a hunter.
Or a hunter. And his name is John. So he goes over to see John, right? And he says, yeah, she's been here. And that's where we find out she left the wolf mask. But they were there as kids. And he remembers him from when his father took him as a child to get the wolf out. For some reason, they needed wolf oil, which is wolf blood, maybe?
I don't know.
What is wolf oil?
I don't know. Maybe they just take the tail and squeeze it.
So apparently Vernon's father at some point, as a boy, brought
him
Vernon there to exercise the wolf out of him with this guy, John. So that's why somehow Medora maybe was there as well, and that's why she visited this little inn and town before she went on to the
hospital. I got to get the wolf out.
See, you need to let the wolf out a little. They all do out here.
That's a new colloquialism.
John tells Vernon that Medora left her wolf mask. Vernon takes it, puts it on, and kills John. So exit John. Vernon leaves. The proprietor of the inn, who just wanted to sleep with him, starts shooting at him. Right. So everybody's converging now in the hot springs. We've got Medora, who's already there. We've got Jeffrey Wright's character of Core, who knows that's where they're both going.
So he employed. Oh, him and the cop go in the little plane, the little Cessna.
And my question is how far away are these hot springs if they have to take a plane to it?
She made us. She told him early on, the first time when he went out looking for the wolves, that they were a few miles out.
But he found it on foot.
Right. Yeah.
In the beginning.
Well, I guess he walks pretty quick. I don't know.
Yeah. So we get Vernon, who shoots the cop through the throat with an arrow. So now we just have Jeffrey Wright's character.
Right. Who can't fly a plane. He's now miles away.
So they converge on the hot springs. So Vernon is finally confronting Medora about her killing their son. Vernon chokes her against the cave wall of the hot springs.
Which is what she wanted Cora to do.
Which, yes. So she's got a thing for choking, apparently. And the choking turns into a torrid lovemaking session between Vernon and Medora.
And Cor was shot again. He had an arrow through him.
Yeah,
so he's sitting there. He's laying there whimpering, watching this whole thing unfold.
And I'm surprised he didn't offer another one of those excuse me.
I got an arrow over here.
Yeah.
Oh.
Cor passes out. He wakes up and sees the two leaving together, Vernon and Medora. So was this a plan? Is Vernon thankful that Medora killed their son? Because Cor hypothesizes a little bit earlier on that Medora has killed the son to spare him from the darkness that Vernon has, that their entire town has. Is Vernon upset to begin with, and then is agreement with it? Has she changed his mind, or was he with this plan all along? You don't know. It's left very ambiguous and very frustrating as well for the viewer, because that's basically the end of the movie.
Well, Cor drags himself out, not before Vernon actually takes the head of the hunting arrow out and then pulls the shaft and then leaves him. And
because he's still thankful, apparently, that he came all this way to help out the wife.
For what reason, I have no idea.
Why, he so egregiously kills everybody else that he comes into contact with, but yet he likes this wolf man.
Yeah. And so Cor is dragging himself through the woods, and sure enough, the wolves show up. Here we go. They're going to eat him.
Yeah.
That's going to be the end of it. Nope. They look at him. He looks at them. They nod, give him a wink. They're like, yeah, okay, you're cool.
Yeah.
And then they go on their way.
You didn't kill us. We're not going to kill you. And
right.
So
they go on their way, and lo and behold, thankfully, he's saved by two other random people that just happen to be in the middle of the vast wilderness.
Snowmobiling along right through his path, and they find him, and they bring him back.
They skipped right by the homicidal couple, found him, and next thing you know, he's in the hospital room, and his daughter's by his side. He's rekindled his relationship with his daughter, and cut to black. Although
not before you see the two drag off the coffin.
Oh, that's right. They dig up the kid.
Yeah.
That is right. Now, I will tell anybody listening, I have 3 notes on this entire movie. First of all, there's some serious false advertising because it has nothing to do with the wolves.
Yeah, the wolves are maybe like 5% of this movie.
Yeah, here's my little quote, my blurb that you can put on the movie poster. It is nonsensical rubbish. That is what I'm going to say. There's all these myriad plot points that go nowhere. There's no payoff whatsoever. And to your point before, Jim, when you were like, are they related? If you, I guess, read the book, or if you go and some of these people, they're brother and sister.
Really?
Supposedly. These are the little crumbs that are hidden within this story. And I'm just like, again, if I have to dig through other people's observations or what the director intended, or here's what this means, it doesn't work. If it doesn't stand on its own as a film, this was. Yes. And I will say that my wife doesn't really watch a lot of television. She loves wolves. We have a lot of little wolf tchotchkes around the house. She watched this movie with me from beginning to end, and she was just as dumbfounded as I was. So I didn't feel stupid. It wasn't like this was a high concept. It just fell flat horribly.
If a filmmaker wants you to make your own conclusions from the end of a movie, really make the rest of the movie engaging enough that you would want to make your own conclusion. At the end of this, I didn't want to think about it anymore. I'm like, I don't really care what their intentions were.
No, I kept thinking about it, and I was mad. Because that is 2 hours of my life I cannot get back. Because you're right, it's like 2 and 10 minutes or something like that.
Because the core character rekindling with his daughter, it's not cathartic enough to bring you out of the darkness that you've just watched, because that was just such a subplot of the main story that was going on. It was kind of like they threw you a bone. Like, okay, his story arc is kind of ended.
I would have been happy if he was just eaten by the wolves.
Now that would have been, a ending. There you go.
But there's no, why do they dig up the kid?
Yeah,
where they? I don't know. I did see a trailer for Pet Cemetery, so maybe that's where.
Maybe that's where they're bringing him. Yeah,
I don't know. Put another log on this fire because I'm getting cold just thinking about it. It is. Yeah, I don't want to speak any more about this movie.
Did you bring the popcorn?
Yes, it's in the cabin. I got the little Jiffy Pops. We can put it right on the fire.
Okay, good, because I think the fire needs those buckets. If we're running out of firewood, okay.
In that case, I'm going to give this 12 buckets just to get the fire going. Actually, the butter and the popcorn is going to burn really nice.
Are you going to pull a mic and give this 0 buckets?
I can't give it 0 buckets because I didn't invest in the entire... Nobody ever sets out to make a bad movie. I'm always amazed when a movie is made because there's so many people involved in it. But this just... it just had no payoff. There was nothing. Like, you cut the black and you're just like, wait, what? It fell apart. I'm going to give it half a bucket.
Half a bucket.
Half.
I'm going to give it 1 bucket just for the tenseness of that massacre scene with Chiru.
Which was like, all right, this movie's not slow enough. We need some explosions. We need something. Let's bring in that Gatling gun.
That was kind of edge of your seat kind of stuff. So for that 10 minutes, I was engaged in the movie.
Right.
But that was about it.
The motivations, not so. Who knows? Because again, it just comes out of left field. All of a sudden, they're killing the officers, and then just go on this standoff. And I guess he was who was it? Chia Pet?
Chia Pet. Cheon.
He was mad at the sheriff because when his kid was taken, they didn't invest any time in looking for her.
Yeah, so he had a grudge against the police. So there was more reasoning just besides backing up Vernon that he did that.
Yeah, whatever. All right, we're done with this.
Whatever. Yeah, and we got no concession stand up here. So I hope you brought the mosquito coil because that's what we're going to need right now.
Oh, okay. We can do that. Well, listen, it's so cold. I don't even think these mosquitoes.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But
they got little jackets on. They can't get around.
Men, there's a drive-in movie full of juicy people. Wow! It's a trap! Help! It's Pick! We've had it, men.
A pleasant aroma for you, but not for mosquitoes. Pick is easy to use. Light it and forget it. The exclusive aluminum-lined ashtray top means not an ash falls on the dash. Pick's aroma keeps mosquitoes, gnats, and sandflies away. Pick is the best protection for barbecues, fishing and camping trips, or just relaxing in the yard. No more sleepless nights or mosquito bites. Pick is harmless to children and pets, too.
So if you don't want our company ever anywhere, just like Pick and see what I mean? Bye!
Pick is on sale at the refreshment stand now.
So here we go. Let's bring this up a notch. More than a notch. Several notches. This next film is one of my all-time favorites. Period. Of any film. Be it wolf, be it horror, be it comedy, be it anything. American Werewolf in London.
It is a nice little amalgam of comedy and horror.
And when it's a comedy, it's extremely funny. And when it's horror,
right? You still laugh.
But it hits all those horror marks as well, perfectly. So Jeff, why did you pick this as your childhood trauma pick?
Well, obviously this movie didn't come out until early 80s. I was still in high school, but I remember specifically my dad at the time lived on a farm, and his neighbor was one of my brother's friends, Glenn Knapp. And they were probably the only people I knew who had MTV and HBO at the time. And we went to his house to watch this. And I remember, we'll get into it, but the hospital scenes, the flashes, the weird David running through the woods naked, eating a deer, and especially when you get into like these demon Nazi soldiers that were like kind of, and they're squealing like, and just gunning down people, really left an indelible impression on me. And the wolf design is just spectacular. And I remember leaving his house and going back to my dad's house. And for lack of a better term, you have nothing but cornfields on either side of you. And in the pitch black with the moon out, after watching this movie, it was like, all right, we need to get home like really quick.
Yes.
Matter of fact, after I watched this week, I was out delivering in the dark and I still had to see it because it was a full moon this week. And I'm like, oh man, I shouldn't have watched that movie. What is that noise? What was that?
You know what? And this movie does have one particular jump scare that I have difficulty watching to this day. It's one of David's dream sequences where he wakes up and you see him in the hospital bed in the woods, and for a split second, he's got like vampire makeup.
Oh, he's got the eyes, the old Michael Jackson Thriller eyes.
So that the first time I saw it, I was just like, I almost had, an 11-year-old's coronary right there. But
well, what about the double dream where he has this vision of these demon Nazis, and then he wakes up and he's like, I had a horrible dream. And then the nurse is like, oh, let me open the windows for you. And she throws open the curtains, and there's a demon soldier there who then stabs her 100 times, and he wakes up again. And you're like, you got it.
And the thing with that scene is, I don't think we even need to get into the plot because anybody worth their salt would have seen this movie. Basically, we've got to set up two backpackers just out of college that are backpacking through the moors of England on their way to Italy. They're hitting England and they're hitting Italy on this trip to Europe. They come across a quaint little English town.
The Slaughtered Lamb.
And the Slaughtered Lamb. And one of the denizens of this pub, I don't know if you caught this, Jeff, is Rick from The Young Ones. Rick Mayall, who also...
Well, I did watch the audio commentary, and they made mention that half of the pub goers were in the cast of Nicholas Nickleby at the time.
And they just dragged him over to the film
basically
set.
Yeah. Well, they probably offered him free beer, and they all sat there drinking pints and throwing darts. So
yeah, Rick of The Young Ones and Drop Dead Fred is
Dead Fred.
Yeah,
you're right.
Makes a cameo in The Slaughtered Lamb.
And yeah, I mean, and that right there is horrific and hysterical at the same time. Because these two bumbling idiots realize pretty quickly that, they start asking questions, and these British blokes are just like, oh, don't ask questions.
And then as soon as they get out, the old woman barkeeper, you can't let them go.
What do you want me to do, woman?
So they're on the moors, and they get attacked by a werewolf. And it's a great, great scene because they're trying to make each other laugh, and they're trying to still be funny about it while they're faced with this horrible situation. Which is probably what anybody would do. Well,
I will tell you two little anecdotes, which is that 90% of their dialogue was improv. Like John Landis to a large degree, even the two guys. So you got David and you got Jack. David Naughton, who plays David, and then Griffin Dunn, who plays Jack. Both said on the commentary that neither of them really auditioned for this. They were just offered the part. And in David's case, all they were concerned with was whether or not he was claustrophobic, because and he had no clue what that really meant. But obviously, when you get into it and you start, they do the transformation scene, and he's in all this prosthetic makeup and whatever. That was what they were concerned with. They didn't care about his acting abilities or his likability on screen.
Because when you see all these behind the scenes things where you have to fully encase the actor's head in plaster for hours on end, and all that he has to breathe with are little straws through his nose.
Pull the molds, Griffin's case, his character is brutally mutilated, and he comes back as a vision to David, but then so this only takes place over a 2-3 day window. I mean, the whole thing is very truncated, but then he starts rotting away. So each time you see Jack, he's now more decomposed, until the point where he's just a skeleton, which was an animatronic at that point. The actor was actually controlling the jaw and just doing the lines offset.
Oh, really? So Griffin was actually the one controlling.
He was actually controlling, right? Yeah. This is just, again, it's funny because when they're on the moors, they're like, oh, what is that? Is that a dog? I don't know. Let's go. And they're just, it starts pouring rain, and the camera's so tight on them as they're hustling through the moors, and they're like, oh, stay off the moors. They look down. Oops. Beware the moon. Uh-oh. So they realize pretty quickly that they're screwed.
And it's another case of you're being scared of what you can actually see. Again, like Jaws. It's very much done so in quick cuts. You don't really know what you're looking at a lot of the time unless you've got the pause button. Until the end, where you get the really big reveal of what the werewolf looks like when you've got a lot of long
shots. One little flash of him as he attacks. So they do another a setup fake jump scare. Where as they're running, David falls, and you're like, hey, you jump because he falls, and it's just, it is just tearing him apart. There's blood everywhere. Jack is screaming, and what do you do as a buddy? You get up and you run. And he's running away, and then he's like, I gotta stop. I got. And he turns around, and he comes back, and sure enough, at least the pub denizens save the day.
But not before he gets a scratch himself from the wolf.
Yes. And so as he passes out, he turns over, and all you see is a naked guy laying there with bullet wounds. To a point, and you're like, wait, what? And then you realize that guy was the werewolf. Then when you cut to him in the hospital, and they're not. So this is a couple days later, the hospital. But now he's starting to have all these visions. He doesn't know what's going on. They're trying to convince him that it was just a crazy man. he's like, I got bit by a werewolf. Oh, no. That's after Jack comes back and tells him he sets up the whole story that he's been bitten by a werewolf and that now Jack has to walk the land of the undead.
In limbo, yes.
Yeah. Until the curse is lifted. And you got to kill yourself, David. You got to kill yourself.
The undead surround me. Have you ever talked to a corpse? It's boring.
And meanwhile, you got the nurse. She's like, David's like losing his mind. And she's like, well, you can come stay at my place. It's like, what's it?
But, this makes sense because David is now oozing the animal pheromones, and that's what they kind of give the impression that she's attracted to that.
Yeah, okay, I'll buy that.
Because there's that long scene where she's like, I don't normally do this. Take strange American men, and I bet you tell.
Yeah, and then immediately takes him in the shower. And I forgot. I mean, I've seen this movie numerous times, but I forgot that whole love scene.
And apparently that went on for quite a bit longer, and they had to cut it in order to make an R rating.
Oh,
so apparently it was much more explicit than that. We're skipping ahead. In the hospital, he gets a visit from Frank Oz.
Mr. Slow down, calm down.
Mr. Kessler.
Mr.
Kessler. I appreciate how upsetting this must be for you. Please, Mr. Kessler.
20 milligrams, Sagitol, IV, please.
I appreciate how upset you are, but this is no reason for hysterics.
And if you close your eyes, you would just picture Bert in that room with him. That's all he was doing his Bert voice. I was thinking Bert.
Oh, gee, Ernie. And now we're on this lake and not one bite. Where are all the fishes?
And then we even had a Miss Piggy and Kermit cameo later.
We did, yes. Horrible to associate Miss Piggy and Kermit with such a horrific scene, but it kind of sets it up where you're in the safety of your own home watching the Muppet Show, and yet all these demon Nazi soldiers come in.
Right.
And
that had to have been around the same time that he was filming Empire. It was 81.
It was 81. So no, I think they filmed Empire 79, actually.
Oh, was it that late?
Because it came out in 80. Yeah.
But still, I mean, up to that point, I don't think Frank Oz had any screen time as an actor. I mean, he's showing up in a bunch of different Landis movies.
Yeah, the Blues Brothers was the one that comes.
Well, right. John Landis directed that. Yeah. And so I will tell you a quick story, which was 85. I was in college in Long Island. And for whatever reason, as college students, we used to constantly get solicited for movie premieres or screenings. Come to the Sunrise Mall, come see this movie. It's not been released in theaters. And it was an advanced screening of Spies Like Us, which John Landis also directed. And we were told right before the movie started that the director could or could not be in the theater with us watching this screening. And the whole movie, I'm thinking, John Landis, he directed American Werewolf in London. Yeah. Like, that's the only thing I could get out of my head was the guy who directed American Werewolf in London was in the same room as I was.
Was he?
I don't know. It wasn't like they got up in front or asked any questions. I wasn't asked to stay behind and fill out any kind of focus group things.
He wasn't incognito anywhere. He
probably was. I don't think I would have recognized him.
He stood up and did the big reveal at the end. It's me.
Well, he does have a cameo in the end. In the big Piccadilly Circus scene.
Yes, he does. Yeah,
when he has a little cameo.
He gets rocketed through
the window or whatever.
Yeah,
which we'll get to there. So this supposedly was almost filmed entirely in sequence, which is almost unheard of in a movie. Like literally, the first scene is what they filmed. The last scene is what they filmed.
And on location, I might point out.
Yeah, they said I think the Moors part of that was actually in the back lot of Windsor Castle, which was kind of interesting. But they filmed this like February and March. And then this movie came out in August. So, I mean, the production timeline was pretty truncated.
I really don't see why they wouldn't have taken advantage of the Halloween release date for this. It would have been perfect.
I don't know, what the thought behind that was. But when you look at Rick Baker, who was coming off Star Wars, he did a lot of the creatures for the Cantina scene and whatnot. He was one of the first, names that I knew of guys behind the scenes that weren't an actor or a director. I mean, Rick Baker went on and he's done phenomenal work, but this whole werewolf transformation thing was so revolutionary. And it was, watching this behind the scenes stuff, it was like he just had kids who were fans of his come all over the country to work with him on this. And they were just kind of making it up as they went.
Yeah.
And that transfer, I mean, again, you've seen it 100 times. This was, I think, the first Oscar ever given out for special effects or makeup. And I mean, even now with CG and whatever, you couldn't have done it any better. This still is just absolutely so riveting. And David Naughton completely sells that his body is mutating, his hands are growing. You know, he's growing appendages, his ears, and then the hair coming out. It's just so well done. I still get. You watch yourself and you're holding your breath. Like, and again, you've seen it.
You can tell it's actually happening. You know, it's live. It's not, you know, you're jaded now because you know all the CGI tricks. And you can kind of tell as a viewer what's CGI and what isn't. When it's done really well, sometimes it blends seamlessly. But still, I don't think they've gotten it quite to the point where it can fool you into thinking that it's reality.
Right.
But this was live in the camera reality.
Yeah, and what they did was they rebuilt that entire apartment on set. So, like, there's a scene where David rolls over, and it's he's full on dog, except for, like, his head. And he's really just kind of, like, buried underneath the floorboards. And it's just his, you know, his chest and his arms with his head. And everything else is just animatronic, prosthetic.
And I love that one scene at the end of the transformation where the camera is panning over the final completed werewolf.
Yeah.
And it's just beautiful to look at.
Yep, and you just get the little... So you really don't... Right, so that's probably the closest you get, and then he goes on this killing spree. But there's a scene in the tube in the subway where the guy is running for his life, and this thing is like chasing. And you're getting it from the wolf's point of view, a lot of the chase stuff, which is
you're
awesome.
not seeing, you're not actually seeing the wolf while the chase is going on.
But so he gets to the escalator and he falls. His books go everywhere, papers, and he's on the escalator and he rolls around. And now it's a headshot looking down the escalator. You know, now it's in the middle of the night. The tube is completely deserted. It's the only guy in here. And as the escalator's rolling up and you're seeing the guy, you just see the body of the wolf come into frame. And you get a sense of its massiveness, and you get a sense of it's one of my favorite scenes, and it's just such a 2-second little throwaway. Too, when you get to the end of the movie, you see the wolf. I mean, for lack of a better term, you're getting 3/4 of the wolf. You never really see his hindquarters, and do you know why that is?
Yes, I do.
Okay, well, yeah. So basically, the only way they could figure out how to make this thing work was to put a guy in a wheelbarrow.
So all you see,
his legs are sticking out the back end, and he's got both hands in the forearms with his head in the, you know, and the animatronic guys are running the mouth and the jaws. And they're just somebody wheelbarrowing.
Somebody's pushing him along as he's running along with his
so
front,
simplistic,
with his
and it's so like I guess probably on set I'd be laughing. I'd be like, I'm not afraid of that thing. That wolf is so, the eyes, the mouth, it's so, because you do get some head-on shots of this thing, and it is just it's horrific.
It is. It's very visceral, and you have a lot of expression in the eyes as well. Around the eyes, there's a lot of movement around in the eyebrows and in the snout, like leading up to the eyes.
Yeah.
So especially at the last scene where Nurse Price calls out to David, and his eyes soften a little bit.
Yep, you get gets the recognition, the realization.
And then the wolf takes over again, and then he leaps at her.
Yeah. So
going back to the tube scene, that whole evening of mayhem where the wolf is attacking various people, it made me think when he attacks the hobos, it was like right out of Beware the Blob. That scene.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
And Burgess Meredith, it was like
that would have been great if they had. Imagine that. Bring in their Burgess Meredith recreate their rules. I don't remember him being quite so hairy.
But it's funny because they have a little dog, the 3 hobos, that runs off. Winston.
Who's there? That's not Winston.
So yeah, that whole, they cut to the snobby couple on the edge of the park, and they're waiting for their friends to arrive.
Yes, and
meanwhile David is eating them up, and the wolf is like just tearing them apart. Honey, something's going out. Well, you go out and check. And the guy's got his glass of wine out there, and he's like, "Oh, hello." He's walking out in the middle of the woods,
and he steps on the entrails, and the look on the guy's face, it's like, it's not even a look of
severed hand, just a severed hand. But that whole cut, so that end where they're in the tube, you see his face, and then it just cuts to a roar of a lion as David wakes up in the zoo the next morning. He's naked a lot in this movie, by the way, because those dream sequences where he's running through the woods. And he's like, yeah, I just went for it. They told me, just run around, just run naked.
And he wakes up, he's in the wolf pen.
Yeah, with real wolves.
Yeah.
So, and then he steals the little boy's balloons.
Yeah.
And he's now trying to convince her. He doesn't know what happened. He doesn't remember what happened. He ends up stealing some lady's jacket. He's buck naked, wearing this overcoat.
But then he hears from the taxi driver that he gets into the taxi, all the murders that had happened the previous night.
But again, like
it was
said,
him.
you go from this horrific to this comedic, like he's now dealing with the ramifications, and he's now, standing in line waiting for the bus, and he's buck naked except for this lady's coat. And you see
that he's stolen,
all the feet, and then you just see his naked feet, and you pan up, and the guy behind him is just looking at him like, what the? And he's like, hey, how are you today? But yeah, he realizes pretty quickly that Jack has been telling him that this is going to happen, and he didn't believe it. And now he's trying to get arrested. Now he's like, I did this. This is horrible. So he goes into and he's trying to get the police officer, the Bobby, to arrest him. And the guy's like, all right, go, move on your way. And he's screaming, Prince Charles is a hag. He's whatever he can do to get arrested, and it wasn't working.
Queen Elizabeth is a man.
There you go. I'm the famous balloon thief, he says, because he stole the balloons to cover up.
So, and I also would like to point out that the cab driver, are you familiar with Guy Ritchie's movie Snatch, starring Brad Pitt as the unintelligible Irish boxer?
Yeah, talk about movies you couldn't understand the dialogue.
Yeah, the cab driver is the bad guy from Snatch, the guy with the huge Coke-rimmed glasses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so go back and look at it. I'm remiss. I don't know the actor's name, but he's
little cameo.
the same guy.
And they did some good, some fun stuff with the Bad Moon Rising,
Creedence
Clearwater Revival. And from what I understand, they tried to get Cat Stevens Moonshadow. He didn't want a werewolf movie associated with the song.
Yeah.
So,
but what they did get was extremely effective. Blue Moon, they did.
Blue Moon. And then
Moondance.
Van
Morrison's Moondance.
So now David is confronted with Jack once again.
In a porno theater.
And they go into a porno theater. And you know that they actually filmed that porno for this movie? If you look at the credits,
if you look at the bonus features, like they did sit down.
See you next Wednesday. See you next Wednesday, players or whatever. And from what I understand, that "See You Next Wednesday" is a running gag in every one of John Landis's movies. I don't know if it was like a script that he wrote at one point and never got produced, but it's a running joke.
Like used as a film title and everyone.
It's always somewhere. It's somewhere. Either it's in a line of dialogue or it's on a marquee. Yeah, and it was like, what is it? The ultimate orgy or orgy of I don't remember what it was. But
because you see a poster for it in the tube while the guy's being chased by the werewolf.
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah, you do.
So so now Jack is completely falling apart. And he's trying to convince David to kill himself. And now he's introducing all the dead people that he had killed the night before. And they were just also like nice and congenial, except for the guy in the
except for the tube guy, yeah.
Yeah, the tube guy. He was
the hobo who says, you ain't no friend to me.
Right. So now they're all shouting out ways for himself to kill himself. It was great.
Because if he does, then they're all released from the curse of walking.
Right. And they're all mutilated and they're bloody and it's just we're a victim of your carnivorous lunar activity. I thought
lunar activities. The way that he
great line.
The way that he enunciates it is great as well.
Yeah.
So then we get the big reveal of the werewolf. The usher of the porno theater comes back to see what the disturbance is in the theater. And he sees David as the werewolf, completely changed.
Just chowing down
over the entrails of some guy that I think thought he was going to get lucky with David. Because as he's changing, the guy's just standing over him, staring at him.
He was just kind of like watching him. He's like, what's going on here? He's a little excited.
This is one of the great scenes where they're telling everybody to get back, yet everybody's rushing in. Yeah,
come rushing. What's going on? What's going on?
And this is where they actually filmed in Piccadilly Circus for 2 nights.
I was there in 99. I was very excited to kind of just take that all in.
I was there 92, I think. And that's what I was thinking when I was there. It was American Werewolf.
Cannot. So, because that scene is so iconic.
So David bursts out of the porno theater, through the cage, through the crowd, and he's snapping at people. He rips off the head of the inspector. Now, you'd think that maybe he's scratched more than one bystander here, but
right, because I was thinking the same thing, which was even at this point, if even one of those people survive, it's going to live on. But really, you go back and watch that, right? He bites the head off the guy, and then that's it. The rest of it is just all reaction to the fact that there's this giant wolf loose in the square. Because people are slamming into each other with cars. People are flying through windshields. It's just, and it's brutal. It's rough, but it's not the wolf attacking him in any way, shape, or form.
And the wolf is just snapping at people that are running by him, but he's not actually connecting, and he's got blood all over his snout from the porno theater.
It's funny because I just remember that being so much more, and it's not. It's over in a heartbeat because all of a sudden, they corner him pretty quick in the alleyway.
And it's funny, you see, because you can tell kind of in some of those shots when you know that it's some guy that's on a wheelbarrow.
Yeah,
you can kind of tell by the movement that he's just being pushed along. But they do make two little fake back feet that kind of just come into camera.
Yeah, just
that
enough.
are moving along, so it gives the impression that all 4 feet are moving. So somebody that does not know like the backstory would be totally invested in this.
Yeah, we were. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And then again, so then we have David trapped down the alleyway. Nurse Price, played by Jenny Agutter. I'm always afraid I'm mispronouncing her name. Jenny Agutter is her name. She was one of the Shields, the Upper Shield triumvirate at the end of Winter Soldier.
Oh, really?
Shield, yeah.
Well, they were talking about the fact she was like a child actress. So she's been doing this for a very long time, and I guess she's got quite the pedigree in London.
And she, during this final scene where she's confronting David as the werewolf, calls out his name, and that's when we were talking about before. The werewolf has recognition in his eyes for her, but then leaps to attack, and all the police somehow shoot through her. And
because it's a long alley, and they are able to take him out. There's poor David laying there, bullet riddled.
And then almost immediately, bang, 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 bang.
Yeah, that's it.
Right into it. Yeah.
No time for remorse. No, nothing.
Yeah.
My favorite line was, "You're walking meatloaf," when he was talking to Jack.
But when he's turning for the first time, the last thing he says, "I didn't mean to call you meatloaf, Jack." Right. As if Jack has anything to do with him turning into a werewolf.
Yeah. Like, I take it all back. So this movie it holds together. It is definitely...
completely does. And the version that I have is probably from about 2001. It's the DVD special edition. And it still has, my copy still has a lot of grain to it. And I think since then, they've come out with the restored edition, which corrects the grain, but I've never seen that. But I can't picture this without that grain.
Without the grain.
I will say that the atmosphere.
I had the Blu-ray from the library, and it was pretty clean. It was pretty pristine, so... Yeah.
Because in addition to the grain, as you said, they filmed in February and March. So the whole thing is overcast completely every time you have an outside scene.
Yeah, it's very dreary. Yeah, which adds to the whole feeling and ambiance of it.
Yeah. And it's dated, but in a very good way. It is so of its time, of the early 80s, but in a way that it brings you right back there. And I don't think the movie could have been made to the same effectiveness if it was made later or earlier. I think it's perfect of its time, when these effects were just cutting edge. And it really broke new ground.
Right. Well, I was going to say, I've never seen The American Werewolf in Paris, which I don't know if that was like a direct sequel. I don't know if Landis was.
It was. I saw it when it came out in the 90s, and I never had the desire to see it again. It was.
Well, this almost became American Werewolf in Paris because I guess they had some issues with the British equity, and they would only license a certain amount of the actors to be able to film. And John Landis was fighting because he could only get one of his 2 actors cleared, and he threatened that if they didn't go through, he would just change the setting from London to Paris, and they'd go and film there. So, they almost was American Werewolf in Paris.
Yeah, Julie Delpy is the werewolf in American Werewolf in Paris, and she
I didn't even realize
is the daughter of David and Nurse Price. So there is that connection between the 2 movies.
Oh, interesting. All it takes is once. That's like the Terminator. All it takes is once.
So she's apparently a werewolf from birth.
Huh. You can pass that on.
So, and I remember just going back to 1981. I obviously did not see this in the theater since it was rated R. I saw it on HBO a year or 2 later. But I remember the theatrical movie poster where it was just David Naughton and Griffin Dunn in their hiker's jackets looking up at the moon.
At the moon.
And the tagline was, "The Monster Movie." So it said American Werewolf in London.
Really?
Below it, The Monster Movie. As if the studio did not want you to, because the top of the poster said, "From John Landis, the director of Animal House, a different kind of animal."
Oh, wow, that's really...
So I think it said The Monster Movie because they didn't want people to think it was a straight comedy, that it was a horror movie as well. So it was just interesting to me that they would feel the need to do that, because I think for that time it was a kind of strange thing to blend horror and comedy. It wasn't done very much.
Right.
Now it's just like if a horror movie doesn't have comedy in it, you think.
This really was a precursor to all that stuff. Really set up. There you go. From the director of Animal House, a different kind of animal. Look at you.
I have a feeling I studied this poster. Maybe this was out in theaters at the same time as Dragon Slayer.
That was 81, 82, 81.
I seem to remember being in the lobby of the theater, seeing something else, and just studying this poster for American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
Like making a mental note. I'll see that on HBO someday.
Oh man, that's great.
And as we were saying before, John Landis had to cut some scenes in order to get an R rating. So he cut the sex scene. Still exists in a very truncated form, apparently. And also, the hobo scene was much more violent. I guess he showed the werewolf actually attacking the hobos. He had to cut that out because that actually upset preview audiences. Maybe that were made up of hobos. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Burgess Meredith and Larry Hagman.
There you go. I think it worked. It worked fine. I don't feel like I'm missing anything by not seeing an additional attack.
So I've got to take some popcorn buckets out of the kindling pile here.
Listen, I'm warm now. Don't be removing them.
5 buckets is our max.
Wow, yeah. Oh.
American Werewolf, I'm going to give 4.5.
I'm right behind you on that one. I absolutely agree.
This is just one of the most outstanding films in my personal history. It's definitely top 10, if not top 5 for me, all-time favorites. And if you haven't seen it, go to your local library.
Well, yeah, I got it from my library, so absolutely.
I'm surprised this isn't in your personal collection, Jeff.
It is not, for whatever reason.
4.5 from me?
Cool. I'm right behind you. I will echo that.
For our confessionals,
I
wanted to go a little bit irreverent. I thought maybe this might fit in with our wolf theme, and I had mentioned Daffy Duck before. I'd like to bring some Looney Tunes back into the show today with a philosophical question that's always bothered me. Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner have always been one of my favorite Looney Tunes, but he never gets the Roadrunner.
Never.
He's always hungry. He's always eating tin cans and what have you, licking out the squalid remains of whatever was in the tin can, then eating the tin can itself because he's so hungry and he never gets that Roadrunner. My confessional question is, I will pose it to Jeff and to the world. Should the Coyote get the Roadrunner? Would we be happy as viewers if the Coyote ever did catch the Roadrunner?
There would definitely be no more show.
There would be no more show. But maybe as fan fiction, as something that would show the Coyote getting his due.
So first we're led to believe that there's no other, right, so he's eating cans. So the Roadrunner's his only option? There's no prairie dogs. There's no other Roadrunners out there. There's no rabbits.
Well, I have one of the Looney Tunes Golden Collection DVD sets, right? And as one of the special features, there is a half-an-hour show dedicated to the Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. I guess it was a one-shot that they produced for CBS, maybe? I'm not sure what channel it was for. But the Coyote actually speaks in this half-hour show. It's probably from the mid-'60s, I would date it at. And at one point, one of the viewers, as a kid in the show, is actually, it's very meta. The whole thing is these two kids sitting and watching the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote cartoons, and they're asking the Coyote questions from their living room.
Through the TV.
Into the TV. So the Coyote stops the chase at one point and asks the two kids, I bet you're asking yourself, why I'm chasing this Roadrunner? It looks very stringy and scroungy for a bird especially. Why wouldn't I chase a turkey?
There you go.
Then he goes on to explain that the Roadrunner is a rare delicacy to coyotes. And that he has a cookbook for Roadrunner recipes and all this, and it's been his obsession to catch a Roadrunner, and that's why he goes after the Roadrunner. So we have it straight from the Coyote's lips.
He exerts a lot of energy.
He does.
Too much energy.
And money, apparently.
Well, so does this guy's got like an endless credit card? I mean, I don't know. Was he on PayPal long before the rest of us?
Yeah, with the Acme Corporation.
Well, yeah, he must have had some kind of streaming service. We've been told that he's a super genius. So stop spending your money on all those Acme rockets and buy a freaking burger. Really, you're misappropriating funds. I think you're not looking at the big picture here. He's like, again, last week I think I used the Ahab and Moby Dick scenario. He's so obsessed with this Roadrunner that he's exhausting every morsel of his, I don't know, inheritance. Maybe his parents were rich and left him some money. He's a super genius. Maybe he sold a patent or two. But
apparently, he's got a special price break on anvils because they always feature heavily.
Do they even make anvils anymore? Did he corner the market?
I think he did. I think
if I went on eBay right now, I wonder if he'd be selling some Acme anvils half price. The shipping alone must be ridiculous.
But as you said, there would be no more cartoon, obviously, if the Wile E. Coyote would have to move on to other things if he ever caught the Roadrunner. Yeah. But it would also take a little bit of mystery out of the world. It would be like shining the spotlight down on Sasquatch. Oh, there he is. We found him.
Oh,
and that mystery is gone.
One day that's going to happen. No, because once you find him, you got so many questions. Because first of all, you can go to the scientific community, but then it's like, dude, where have you been? What have you been doing? What are you here for? What? To what purpose? So to answer the question, Wile E. Coyote does not deserve to catch. At multiple opportunities and at every turn, he is thwarted.
You could also pose the question, should Charlie Brown ever kick the football?
That's different because I think that, the Roadrunner is just out to save his life. Lucy Van Pelt is just a nasty, sardonic, sadomasochistic little girl who deserves a football in the head. Charlie Brown should absolutely. First of all, he needs to cut down that damn kite-eating tree with the dad's chainsaw. Hey, son. He needs to go and find that football, and he needs to just...
But again, it would, if we saw Charlie Brown do that, it would take away a little bit from because you're so familiar with that. It would.
I don't care. There's a point where the sad sacks of the world, the wishy-washy boys have to stand up. You have to stand up, and you have to take what's rightfully yours.
Well,
Wile E. Coyote can't do that. Wile E. Coyote cannot... He can't seal the deal. Sorry, you're not a super genius.
But neither can Charlie. He always knows that he's going to get that football pulled away, but yet he doesn't.
Yet he does, yeah. Well, maybe he does it. Sadomasochistic. I think he's just...
I think if we give Charlie the football, we can give Wile E. Coyote the Roadrunner.
Why wouldn't he just go after Foghorn Leghorn? That guy is much meatier.
Well, he's not in the desert.
I say, boy, I took a wrong turn in Albuquerque.
You can only be so much of a genius as a coyote, For a coyote, he's a super genius. Maybe he doesn't know.
I guess in the context of super geniuses, yeah, I don't know.
I say that he should get him. I think we would just have to agree to disagree.
So right, that Roadrunner, he's done everything he can to stay alive. Yes. I give him credit.
And sometimes I am more than a little annoyed by the Roadrunner.
Well, he is cocky.
He's a little smug. He's cocky.
He's very smug because once again, he's defeated the super genius. All he has to do is outrun him. All he has to do is take the painted tunnel and turn it to the side, and Wile E. Coyote falls off the cliff.
And remember, last week we had our podcaster in Halloween goading Michael Myers. The Roadrunner does the same thing. He does. So
would you like to see Wile E. Coyote?
I would like to see Wile E. Coyote have a feat.
Just lose his shit and show up in Michael Myers and just slaughter all the Looney Tunes. I've had enough of you.
He would get in that Mack truck that always runs him down and just go through each and every scenario, each and every cartoon, and run everybody down.
Even the chicken hawk. I'm a chicken and you're a chicken hawk.
Especially the chicken hawk. I think that the Roadrunner should get it. I think that they should have like a nice episode of Looney Tunes where the
just all sitting around a table.
Thanksgiving meal, yeah.
Roasted.
Invites all the other characters and says at the end, "You're eating the Roadrunner."
Soylent Green is Roadrunner.
And maybe like a little beep beep, like from the cooked Roadrunner from the middle.
Oh, maybe someone eats him and when he burps, he's like meep meep. He's like. Cut the black.
Speaking of cut to black, what was that? Jeff, I have another slight confession to make. I scream like a woman.
Oh, that was you? I thought that was me.
Whatever that is, it's getting closer.
Listen, all I care about is I can outrun you.
I think we got to get out of here before that thing attacks us.
Yeah, the fire's getting low, and that cabin's looking really nice. I hope that's not the cabin in the woods, though.
I hope it's not either. It's probably about, 50 paces away, so I think it's time to, let's go.
Let's go. All right, I'm out of here.
All right,
kids, enjoy. Thank you for listening.
A naked American man stole my balloon.
What?